then like they do an assessment, and then they say,
Hi, everybody. It is time to resume the program. Am I going to have to clap then? It's going to be like this. I'm going to. Okay. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Okay. Oh, it got quiet real fast. Great. Thank you all so much. I'd like to now invite our friends from the city of Boston to come down and talk about some cool new stuff. So, Anna, take it away.
Hello. I'm Anna. I am the Senior Product Manager at the City of Boston. And sorry, disoriented by the different screens. I'm going to talk a little bit about a recent project that we've been working on to use AI development tools, which feels like a fancier way of saying vibe coding, but vibe coding, to get some products up quickly and get rapid feedback from users. So, first, I'll tell you a little bit about the problem that we're trying to solve. So you can't see a lot of the words here because they're tiny, but these are two different applications that are on the City of Boston website, which is our old website. These were built in 2012, and you can get basic alerts for street sweeping schedules and street permitted work. So if you want to know when your car might get towed, these are helpful schedules to sign up for. Some things that they have email notifications, basic alerts for street sweeping and construction, but only notifications via email. You can't get text or push alerts. They're not mobile friendly, as you can probably guess from these websites. If you want to use them on your phone, you just scroll in a lot. So there's room for improvement. And they're on our legacy website. So generally, we want to have a consistent voice where we're putting all information out on the same website, but we have some legacy applications, and we're always trying to look for ways of moving this over into our current website. So this has been a long-standing thing that we've wanted to work on. We have so many ideas. Some sampling. We've talked about making the service mobile friendly, or maybe just making it an app. Maybe incorporating notifications from other city services all into one consolidated platform. Allowing for more customizable notifications. The opportunities are endless, but we want to talk with people to understand what's actually useful before we endeavor to embark on a huge development sprint. Okay, so normally this process of building a prototype, talking with users, actually building the product will take quite a while. The very fastest that this could go is having like a few weeks of building the prototype and talking with users. Realistically, it usually takes longer than that. So we wanted to try something very lightweight to use Claude to see how we could move this faster. Okay, so the details of using Claude Code. Basically, the process was writing a product requirements document, putting this into Claude Code, and then we have a prototype, and I'll show that in a moment. I want to share some more details here because as I was reading about this and trying to figure out a good way of setting this up, I feel like I saw a lot of things online that were like, I instantly built my app with Claude and it read my mind and it's perfect. And I would not say that was my exact experience, but it was really a great way of getting some ideas out quickly. So I'm a product manager, always writing a lot of product requirement documents. This has been something that I've been thinking about for a little bit, so I spent some more time revising this, cleaning it up, and then I ended up chatting back and forth with Claude to revise it further. I ended up doing a few revisions, but all in less than an hour, and was able to get a working prototype together. So just to give a sense of the level of granularity, I found that having a lot of information made it much more useful. But then get into planning where I'm deploying everything locally on my computer and then running it there until we actually launch this. So for context, there's a JavaScript front end, no back end for this. It's just for the sake of putting together something really lightweight so that we can show it to people, have them click around to see what they like. And it's just hosted on Netlify. So this was me just dragging and dropping a folder on my computer into the hosting platform. And this is all to say, I am not a coder, and this was incredibly easy for me to do. So something that we could get out really quickly because our main purpose here is to talk with people to see, is this something that will be useful for them? Okay, the demo. Can I open a browser? Okay.
It's just
Thank you. Okay, so this is the actual tool. So after we built this, we had scheduled a few conversations with users last week. So we talked with 12 users in the city of Boston and surrounding areas, allowed them to explore this tool, got some feedback from them. So I'll quickly show it. The idea is you can search for a street and get local parking regulations. So Wilson Street, and then you can see whether you're allowed to park right now or if you need to move soon, and sign up for alerts, which these are simulated right now. And then view your saved notifications. So by getting this out to people quickly, we were able to get some really rapid feedback. Some of the biggest points of feedback were almost everyone said that they wanted to see a map, that they did not remember exactly what the from and to streets were on their street when they were trying to avoid parking illegally, which makes sense. But anyway, this is all to say, by using Claude Code, other AI development tools, we were able to stand something up really quickly and then bring this to actual users quickly and get real feedback, which was a great thing. We're trying to figure out how to do that more. So, any questions? We welcome them.
I'm Lab, so I'll just yell.
Yeah.
So how are you taking, you have these prototypes, you're doing sort of rapid feedback and product development. How do you then translate that to the procurement process and COTS vendors and all these other vendors the city uses to be like, oh, you got this great feedback, there's a feature list, and then you go to vendor like, great, that's $5 million. You're like, oh, how are you balancing the creativity here with that ugly reality?
Well, that is a really good question. I do not have a super succinct answer to this, but I will say this is a lightweight enough application that we do actually have some internal resources, as in like team members, developers who can work on this kind of thing. So the screenshots of what I was showing before, the previous app, those were built in-house. This is simple enough that we'll probably also build it in-house. Yeah, for bigger, you're asking a good question. I do not have a simple answer. No, you're right though.
I have a question that's a little unrelated.
Okay.
Where did this data come from? I thought this didn't exist.
This data is from the Open Data Portal. So please check out data.boston.gov.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for that.
I literally thought that I was once told, like, we don't have any data about street signs. Nobody knows what all the street signs are.
Oh, no, this is for street sweeping regulation.
Oh, it's just for
which
street
is-
sweeping. Okay,
yeah.
okay. I thought it was more bigger. Got
So you talked about how this whole process worked well, like a lot of the things went great, but I'm curious about where were the pain points? Like where did this process break down and what did that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say the biggest challenge here is also a little bit of what Harlan got to. This is just street sweeping right now. So we have a data set for street sweeping regulations. All of that is stored in, anyone can go look at the CSV and analyze Boston. But it's just like Boylston Street, Arlington Street to Hereford Street. That doesn't translate well with the way most other data is set up. So for example, the permitting notifications, which is the other screenshot I showed at the beginning, that data is all set up as addresses. So that doesn't easily translate to this like list of street names. So the biggest challenge here by far is integrating data systems that are designed and stored completely differently, which is why we scoped this very into like a very defined area.
I'm curious, so once you're happy with what you want to build, so like once you're happy with what you want to build, I'm curious what the process or expectations are in terms of how the developers will then take it on, interact with the code that Claude has come up with. Are they redesigning from scratch, or are they expected to take Claude's stuff and then kind of build out from there? What do you imagine?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've experimented also with just like smaller things where we're just figuring out, how to change some buttons or toggles, oversimplification. At least so far, the development team on the city's data team has mostly used those as inspiration and then has not used the code because of shortcomings in how the code is set up. And I know there are a lot of engineers here who may have more to say. So I don't have personally a strong opinion about or a strong preference for reusing the code. I think what's really helpful about this is we're able to get a concept out to real people who are outside the city to be like, does this make sense? Should we continue investing in it? But there's a lot of work in between putting up a prototype and then actually putting it into our code base. So I'm not quite sure how that'll work yet. Okay.
I was just curious how you find people to test this on, and like how you do user testing.
Yes, thank you for saying this because I should have shouted out at the end, but we partnered with the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics, which is an office in the city of Boston, and they are always going out and doing user interviews with folks in the city, so they have a network to reach out to. I wish I could say more about that, but it is the Monum team that led the user research, and thank you for the reminder to say that because they were wonderful to partner with.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep the train going. Okay. Everybody here loves the tea, right? Are you still using that slide? I made that. That was a long time ago.
Mic check. Yes, good, amazing. Hi everybody, my name is Preston Mueller. I'm a software engineer at the T in the Technology and Innovation Department. I'm bringing to you today light rail predictions, the then, the now, and the soon. To start off, this is a T map, right? Has anyone written the green line? Yes, raise your hand. Great, put them down. Has anyone ridden the Mattapan trolley? Couple folks, put them down. Has anyone ridden the Mattapan trolley but not the green line? Okay, that's good. That's good. Great. So let's backtrack to the 1890s. This is Park Street on the left, now a current Green Line station. And on the right, Cedar Grove Station, I believe, on the opening day of the Mattapan Trolley in 1929. There were no predictions then. I guess that's kind of the punchline. But as you're listening to the rest of this brief talk, just think about maybe what it would have been like then and where we've come now. So fast forward to 2012, and we got countdown clocks in a couple stations in August of that month. August of that year. And then more were installed over the course of the subsequent year. And I really like these, by the way, personally. It kind of is a part of my soul, I think. But that's a side thing. Anyway, so there are two key prediction types that I want to talk about. The first, mid-trip. The second, terminal. So a mid-trip prediction is essentially a prediction for a vehicle that is already running or is already moving. So if you are the hypothetical snowman at Arlington Station and you are waiting for a vehicle that is at Kenmore, as you can see, I've pointed it out with this green box, you would be seeing very likely a mid-trip prediction. Again, because that vehicle at Kenmore is already on the move. These aren't necessarily simple, but they're accurate because the vehicle's already running. But if you think about a terminal prediction, hypothetically, let's say you are again the emoji snowman at Gilman Square Station on the E branch, and the vehicle is still at Medford Tufts Station waiting to depart. It's a little bit harder because the vehicle hasn't actually left yet. You can't know necessarily with quite the same degree of accuracy when the train will arrive at Gilman Square. On the Green and Mattapan lines, which are light rail lines, today, if you are in a location where there are no mid-trip predictions, you will see this on a countdown clock. On the left, government center trains arrive every 5, 2, 6 minutes. Yeah, and on the right, on the section of the Mattapan line, inbound trains to Ashmont every 7 to 10 minutes. And this is accurate because it's what we call headway mode for when we're not super sure about the terminal prediction, but it's not good enough. So why do we not have terminal predictions on light rail? Well, the orange, red, and blue lines have train sheets, i.e. sets of departure times that are managed by the Downtown Operations Control Center. Until 2023, light rail train sheets on the light rail lines were paper train sheets in booths at the end of each branch. Paper isn't very dynamic. It doesn't tell you when anything changes on it, unfortunately. But fast forward to 2023, and some of my very dedicated and excellent predecessors, engineers, program managers, and others, including Harlan, worked on and released Glides, which is an application for light rail officials. The objective of this tool was to give inspectors a modern tool to manage service, let that data be digital so it's not on paper. And if you do all those things, eventually riders can get countdowns at light rail terminals. That's like the thing. That's what I'm talking to you about. So now it's 2026. So Glides is in production, it's in use, and we're getting kind of close. So how do we measure success for light rail terminal predictions? That is to say, when are we ready to do the thing? So we're looking at two key metrics. The first is continuity. So that's to say, is a prediction for a departure being generated continuously for 5 minutes prior to that departure? point is a service day, and the y-axis is the number of trips on that service day for which we had continuous predictions up to 5 minutes prior to departure. Now, with the exception of that snowstorm you see in late January, the trend is good. And this chart makes me and my soul happy because it means that we are getting quite close. But again, ignore the snowstorm because snowstorms make things hard. So that's the first metric. And again, there's also the second, which is accuracy. What is the percent of trips for which when we do make a prediction, is it accurate? Accuracy is a little bit, I'm not going to explain like the details of how we define it, but go with that. All to say, we're looking pretty good. So the takeaway, like the ultimate real thing here is that it's not actually necessarily just the technology. We are looking at 3 main takeaways from working on light rail terminal predictions. The first, it is about empathy the whole way through. Our frontline staff's job is not to just create data. It's not to sit in the booth using glides and to enter new predicted departure times. We are trying to deliver great service. How do we help people do that? Second big takeaway on this is that we are looking at making process changes to figure out how to help light rail operations deliver better service. So those graphs that you saw 2 slides ago with the lines going up is a mixture of both technical and process changes to make this happen. The third is building trust. We have learned time and time again that it is not just getting to the launch point and then throwing up your hands and calling it done. Our department loves and carries projects to launch and beyond. And so we are thinking about that as we go. Final plug, the T is hiring. Our department has multiple positions open and the careers page is really easily found with this vanity URL, mbta.com/techjobs. And that's it. And I'm gonna bring my colleague JD down actually to work on this with me to answer questions if we have any.
I like to you guys are all set up. But is there any plans to integrate like all this timetable and this timetable prediction with newer rolling stock, like the Type 10s that'll be coming out the next couple of years? And like especially with the Mattapan line where we have very older cars like the Pullmans being replaced by the Type 9s that are currently on the Green Line. Is there any plans to kind of like integrating that so there's better predictions by seeing the trains on the move?
On our minds as we stand here, yes.
I was gonna say, as someone who waited for the Mattapan high-speed rail a week ago in the snow, I am thrilled to see this progress. It is like amazing and
Thanks.
I'm sure this is just me being egocentric, but I thought I was the only person on the planet who understood that line staff's job isn't to enter data. So I really appreciated that slide.
No one has any other questions for the guys on the team?
I'm curious though, when I get to the orange line in the morning, I get a BRD boarding for the train that I can see pulling out of the station, and I can't see when the new one is coming. Like all the Stony Brook stations just say BRD until it's like practically to Jackson. Is that a glitch in the sign or a glitch in the code?
Yeah, so actually I'm the reason that happened. I work on the prediction, so Preston works on the software. He was talking about the train sheets for operators entering departure times on light rail. I work on the predictions, and basically before at Stony Brook, we had the problem of the train looking like it was gone
And so people wouldn't hurry up to get to the train. And so I actually encountered this problem and observed it. And we were like, oh, well, basically what was happening is there was how you get information about the subway trains is that they trigger an electrical circuit, and that sends information to our system. And one of those circuits was like bobbing, and it was triggered too early. And so that would cause us to think that the train had already left. And so if the train has already left, you're not going to try to get to the station. So we decided it was better to show that it was boarding for longer, even after it's leaving, instead of having the opposite problem. So that was like the trade-off that we made. Unfortunately, at the T, we have to deal with problems like this because we don't have the, financial resources to fix all the electrical stuff. But hopefully in the future. No, you're not crazy. That is like a direct issue that we had reported and worked on. And it's my fault.
I have one other question if we have time.
Yeah.
If this came up, I don't know, in your user research or in the data, but can you talk a little bit about what the operators are putting in? Like, what are their decision points around when a train leaves, and what is the data that they're entering into the app?
That's a great question. They're principally entering in operator information as well as departure time and also the consist. So actually the physical vehicle number on the train that they can see with their eyes. But because it's not their primary responsibility to keep the digital page up to date, that's essentially why this isn't out yet, because they're in many cases actually entering that information after the fact. Does that answer your question? Like essentially, right? It's operator time and vehicle but after the fact in many cases. And so we're, in addition to making changes for hooking up with the prediction system, we're actually also doing in parallel UI changes to encourage them to enter information earlier. Thanks, everybody.
It's a nice slide deck. This is going to take 1 second. Because now we go to some more mode.
Mike,
Yes. Daryl, can you hear us through the microphone?
what is supposed to happen
We're going to hear from the National Police Data Coalition with Daryl Malone.
Was able to hear me? Okay, good deal. Yeah, hey everybody, Daryl Malone. Not sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, I am Daryl Malone. I'm the project lead for the National Police Data Index. I'm going to go up a slide here really quickly. And yeah, to give you a bit of background on the project, the focus is police accountability. This is a project that was started in 2020 and was really hoping to find a way to basically make it easier to hold police accountable, prevent bad police from being hired and kind of propagating throughout the system. And we are now getting ready to have our full launch. We have like a kind of a private beta that's going right now, but we are now about to release kind of the full product for the first time. So exciting times. First, to get to the meat of why this specific project was developed, one of the tough things about dealing with police is the level of immunity that they have in the legal system. It's generally not enough to prove your case against an individual officer at that specific time, unless there's some media sensation or something along those lines that adds a bit of pressure to the prosecutors at that time, generally the lawyer will need to prove a pattern of abuse, right? You'll need to have a number of instances, you'll need to have a pretty solid record to show that this isn't something that, you know, there was no way out of it for the officer, that this is, you know, something where this is a person who is actually dangerous and does need to be held to account. So the primary purpose behind this tool is meant to be something initially for attorneys, so that they can really do their jobs more easily. So you can think of this as something similar to a LexisNexis type legal research tool that's specifically looking into the records of officers. The benefit of having lawyers be the first users also means that it becomes a bit of a crowdsource or an open source intelligence tool, right? So as attorneys are working with the system, they also have the ability to bring in information that they have from their clients in a way that's safe and preserves the safety and security of those clients themselves, who could be open to retaliation, who could be open to any number of things if they're kind of standing alone out on the precipice and, you know, declaring whatever it is that happened to them. By having a law firm kind of be the one that's bringing that data, number one, it adds a little bit of authority to those records, and it also makes it easier for that person to protect their anonymity. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of the product. Hopefully this is, yeah, it looks like it's still on screen. So the basic idea is you have the ability to look up the history and records of individual officers, as well as police departments, units, everything along those lines. So right now we're going to be launching with data from, I'm hoping 4 different states. So we'll have New York, Texas, Illinois, California. Would like to have Massachusetts as well, not the officer records, unfortunately. Those are private in Massachusetts, but we'll have complaint data. And the idea being that you can type in whatever it is that you're looking for and get some data that is going to be relevant to whatever it is you search for. So that could be specific police departments, that could be units of police departments, or that could be individual officers. So based on what it is that you're looking for, you can find something that's going to give you an idea of what's happening. So here you can see, you get kind of some top level information just from the search of what that officer's record is. And if you click through, you can get more information along those lines. So what are the history of allegations they have, their employment history, the different departments that they've worked for, things of that nature. This is kind of the initial phase of it. And the second step is really to enable more detailed data analysis of that. So I'm going to show you, these are kind of the features that are still in development that we hope to be releasing here shortly. So here you can see, this is the page I just showed you. And once you go beyond just looking at the surface level data, you can go into the kind of data explorer. You can see the different allegations, whether they were sustained, everything like that. What are the different types that are prevalent for this specific officer? Are there any demographic commonalities between the people who are complainants against this officer? How that plays out over time. And all of that can be seen at the department and the unit level as well. So for the defense attorneys, this is really important to look at from the individual officer perspective, because you're probably looking at the arresting officer and trying to understand if there's something that's going on there. For civil rights attorneys and people who are looking at things at a more systemic level, you really want to be looking at an entire department or a unit and understanding if there's something going on with training, trying to compare them to comparable departments of, cities of similar sizes or units, other units of that particular police department, trying to understand, is there something that stands out? And our tool is really just to make this whole process that much easier and to really pull data from a variety of different sources, from open records, FOIA requests, the work of journalists across the country, as well as data that is contributed by individuals and attorneys who are working in the field. So that is the concept. We're going to be launching in April. Actually, we'll be launching at the LitCon event at Suffolk Law School on April 13th. So if anybody's interested in seeing us there, definitely check that out. But otherwise, you can find the website at dev.nationalpolicedata.org to kind of see it in action yourself. And yeah, that's it for me.
Because the AV set up, you can't hear us. So, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, over here. I had questions about the states that where the officers' records are confidential. I'm a little surprised that, I guess you'll find Texas, they're not confidential, but in Massachusetts they are. And is there any legislative effort in Massachusetts? Any legislative efforts in Massachusetts?
Well, Texas, there are two separate sets of records that we're pulling in here. So there's the officer employment data, and then there's the complaint data. The employment data is a little bit easier to get in some places that's reversed, but there are a lot of places where through work, journalists can get access to employment records for the different departments that are there in the various states. So there's a pretty good coverage of that across the nation, including in Texas, where you can get that data. When it comes to complaints, that's usually a lot more piecemeal. That's something that typically has to be handled at the city level. Generally, there's some sort of review board or some sort of process through which different police departments are taking in complaints, and then they're being dealt with. And then you're able to work with those bodies to actually get that data. So a lot of times we're relying on, what's the different patchwork of laws that exist. In the case of Massachusetts, it's kind of reversed. So Massachusetts, the employment records are actually private, but the complaints are tracked at a statewide level. So we're able to list the complaints that a given officer has, and we can show all the officers that have complaints. But officers that don't have any record with the post, which is Police Officer Standards and Training Commission, those officers, we won't have any employment records or know what their history is, or even necessarily know what their history is once they have complaints. That's something that will take a little bit more research to dig out.
Okay. Wait, there's one more.
Hi, thanks so much. This looks great. I was wondering what policy changes cities or states could make to better expose data to help us understand which police officers are making repeat offenses and help us better catch bad apples, as it were.
The biggest policy change, I would say, would be to really reduce the level of immunity that officers have. That's probably one of the biggest things that makes it really hard to hold police accountable, is at the national level, there's so much shielding legally that they have. And it's really, really difficult to bring cases in the first place, right? And that kind of, they have layers of protection both at the just being able to have standing of bringing a case, that becomes very difficult. The funding for cases has been attacked on many levels. So a lot of times, with civil rights cases, you're usually, as an attorney, you're basically a lot of times working pro bono, and then whenever there is a case that wins and you have some sort of settlement, there's usually that's how you fund your work. In the case of police misconduct, that actually has been foreclosed, right? That's not an option that's available. You really do have to do it either through donations or something along those lines to really make it happen. So that's one of the core sticking points. I think at the city level and state level, one of the issues is, making those records public themselves. This is something that I can speak to a little bit in Austin. That's where I'm based right now. And there has been a big struggle to basically make the records for police misconduct actually publicly available. They were hidden for a long time. The police department sat on the data. There were a number of public campaigns that led to some citywide ordinances that were trying to basically force the departments to make those available. And even after winning some of those victories, there were like a lot of lawsuits that had to happen and to kind of make that publicly available. So I would say transparency, and then just allowing cases to proceed whenever you do have officers that are committing misconduct.
It's a little weird, I know. Okay, now we got one more for you here. Last but not least, one of our longest running projects. Here is Nate Sanders, whose pipes sort of exploded today. He was supposed to be here in person, but ended up having to stay home. So here's Nate to talk about Maple.
Hello, I see the go signal. I'm Nathan Sanders. I'll be presenting today on behalf of the Maple Project. I'm in the Boston area, and I intended to be with you all in person today, except I need some help from our heat pump project friends because I had a pipe that froze yesterday and then burst today. So I've had an endless stream of plumbers going through my house. But anyway, I'm sorry not to be there with you in person, but delighted to share more about our Maple Project. I'm going to share my screen and go through a few slides and then do a quick demo of the platform. Okay, great. So Maple is the Massachusetts platform for legislative engagement. I'm going to do a demo for you, but you don't have to wait for me. You can go to our website, mapletestimony.org, and you can play around with it yourself while I'm talking. So please feel free to pull up your phone, pull up your laptop, and check out mapletestimony.org, and I'll show you what it looks like too. So what problem are we trying to solve? Well, we have an elected legislature, of course, in Massachusetts, which has been representing us for something like 400 years, which is remarkable. But our legislators don't hear from all of us. Not all of us have the time or the capacity or the awareness of how to make our voices heard. And so the problem that we're trying to solve is to make that easier, to make it easier for all of us to have influence in the legislature over the bills that ultimately will govern all of our lives. So Maple is being built for everybody. It's a volunteer-developed, nonprofit, open-source tool that anyone can use. It is for citizens and residents and constituents. You can use Maple today to research legislative proposals, bills, and to have your voice heard. I'll show you what that looks like. If you're an organization, Maple is for you too. If you're an advocacy or a public interest organization, you can use Maple to publish your group's testimony about bills and to help your members organize and to help them learn and to facilitate them to submit individual testimony as well. And it's for journalists and researchers. Maple has created really the first public data set of testimony to the Massachusetts legislature, and now it's available as an open source tool online for anyone to use. And by the way, it's for legislators as well. I couldn't help but show this photo with Harlan, co-founder Matt Victor, Isaac Jared, and a bunch of us who came to the State House just a few months ago, and not only showed off Maple, but showed off a bunch of other projects from our broader Code for Boston Civic Tech community to inform our legislators about the great work that this whole group is doing. So we've got a fantastic team building Maple. Want to give a special shout out to our founder and my partner on the Maple leadership, Matt Victor, and our broader steering committee, most of whom have come together through Code for Boston. It's a great group. I'm sure some of my colleagues are there in the room. Shout out to everybody who is there in person. Let me call out too our fiscal sponsor, our 501c3 nonprofit institutional host, which is Partners in Democracy. We also are very glad to be partnered not only with Code for Boston, but with universities across Massachusetts, including Northeastern University's New Law Lab, which incubated us, and the fantastic fees for our program, which has contributed a lot of student energy and designs to our project as well. And we've got a great advisory board too, including an awesome Andy Bartlett who helps us out. So we think that we're serving a really critical role. We're trying to help fulfill a broader role for digital technology in making our democracy stronger and helping to make constituents more informed, helping them to engage in the legislative process, and helping to create an impact from that work. We've got a paper that we wrote last year with some other collaborators in the civic technology and pro-democracy space, trying to outline a framework for the different ways that digital platforms can support this kind of democratic function. And we built Maple as a space for that civic energy. So at this point, instead of showing you slides, I'm going to drop out of this screen and do a live demo of the site for you, which I'm sure will go terribly wrong. But you can also follow along on your own phone or device. Okay, so when you go to mapletestimony.org, this is what you'll see. This is the main page of our site. You'll see a bright orange banner here advertising a brand new feature that our team just released in the last couple of weeks, which I'll show you. But let me show you some of the main features of the site. If you click on Browse Bills, you can see information about every bill that is before the legislature right now, which is more than 8,000 bills in the current session. And we've been operating Maple now across 3 different legislative sessions, 2-year sessions. So you can also see about 16,000 bills from prior sessions if you'd like. For every bill, we have tons and tons of metadata, and we make that metadata a little bit more searchable to make it easier to research bills. If you go to the legislature's own website, one of the primary, the primary way that they categorize legislation is by what committee it's in. And it's very typical for committees to have 400 or more bills. And so that can be a pretty not granular way to search for a bill that's relevant for you. So we've also used AI to automatically digest the content of bills and to tag them according to a detailed taxonomy to help you drill down much deeper than just at the committee level to find a topic that's relevant for you. And we also have a full text universal search across both content and metadata. So you can easily find those related to whatever specific issue that you're interested in. And of course, we support filtering and all sorts of other data like sponsors and cities that it relates to as well. Now, if you click into a bill page, you'll see lots of additional information. We have, again, all the same information that's available on the legislature's website, including the full text of the bill, which can sometimes be very long. It's sponsorship information, which senators and representatives are sponsoring it. But we have some features that you won't find on the legislature's website that we think really help with the engagement process. We've got smart summaries that are plain language summaries explaining what the bill does based on the full text of the bill itself and the sections of the Massachusetts General Laws that it was modified to give a more accessible way for people to understand what a bill does. And we have something that you won't find anywhere else in Massachusetts, which is a bank of testimony that people have submitted through Maple to the legislature. The way that works is by clicking on our feature when you're logged in to submit testimony. We've got a super simple workflow that in just a few clicks allows you to express your point of view on that testimony, on that bill to the legislature, and ultimately to connect you directly to your representatives by facilitating an email that you send to them to formally submit that testimony. Now, I mentioned that we have some brand new features, and I want to land on demoing that. You'll notice here that we now have a link to a hearing, video, and transcript. This is also a feature that you'll only find on Maple that we've just released. So for every legislative hearing, years worth of hearings, many dozens of hearings in the legislature, most of which are hours long, typically 2 to even 8 hours, we've used AI to generate full text transcripts of the entire hearing that are searchable, so you can find exactly what topic or bill you're interested in, and are clickable as well, so you can easily jump from the transcript to the exact moment of the hearing that you're interested in. So I'll just come back to my slides for one more point, which is just to talk about what we're doing next. So the volunteer members of our team are hard at work now for 3 big priorities that we have for 2026. We're enhancing or refreshing our user interface and our user experience. we're working on sense-making tools to take the growing bodies of testimony that have been submitted through Maple and to help find points of consensus and opportunities for bridging and generally to make sense of that content. And maybe the biggest, most exciting initiative for us is that we're going to support ballot questions. In addition to having pages and a process for collecting testimony on bills, we're going to support the questions that are going to be on the ballot in November as well. So I'll pause there. I will thank you all so much for hearing a little bit about Maple, and I'd love for any questions that you have, and I'd love if you join us on the Maple project as well. Everybody's welcome.
This project sounds fantastic. I just recently gave testimony for the first time. That was exciting, but it sounds like it's a fairly mature project and it's all run by volunteers. So like, what's the long-term plan for it? Like, how is it going? How do you know it's going to be maintained in 10 years, say?
Oh, great. I see the question in the chat. Recently gave testimony for the first time. That's awesome. What's the long-term plan for the project? It's a great question. Right now, Maple is really focused exclusively on Massachusetts, and our volunteer community that's come together through Code for Boston is focused on Massachusetts. But we're now part of a larger organization, Partners in Democracy, that has aspirations to impact civic technology and civic engagement across the country. So one of the things that we're looking at with our host organization is spreading Maple. It's an open source code base. We've tried to develop it in a fairly modular way so that it can be applied to other jurisdictions as well. So we hope to expand in that way and work with other partner organizations around the country to do that.
I was going to say, it sounds like there are a lot more bills considered than ever get passed. I'm assuming we're going to get thousands of bills passed each session. So presumably similar legislation is coming up again and again. Are you doing anything to try and pull historic testimony that relates to a similar bill, from a previous session for current bills under consideration?
Might you repeat the last part of the question?
Oh, just saying, like, to try and tie back to similar testimony for similar bills from previous sessions.
Okay, I see the question here. I'm assuming thousands of bills are passed each session. Similar legislation is coming out again and again. Do you do anything to pull testimony from similar bills? It's a great question. I have to start with a quick factual note here, which is that our legislature famously has a very, very high rate of bills introduced. You saw 8,000 per session. We also have a remarkably low number of bills passed per session. One of the things that we hope is really useful to do with our site is to draw attention to those bills that communities are actively organizing around that maybe have a greater chance of passage. If you go to Maple, you can see some bills that have 100 or more testimonies because there's a lot of organizing happening and perhaps they have an opportunity to move. And you'll see lots of bills that don't have testimony and the legislature is not discussing in hearings and are not likely to move. We hope that's one piece of information that we can expose to the community. Regardless, you've got a great point. It's very typical for bills to be introduced session after session after session, hoping that eventually they will move. We would love to do more. We don't have dedicated features yet for joining similar bills across legislative sessions or even refiles of bills within a session, but it's something we'd love to build out. And if anyone here is interested in helping with that, we welcome it.
Hi. There are lots of exciting things about this. Where is the part where you get people to review and give testimony who are not a bunch of nerds who would show up at a public hearing anyway?
Great question. How do we get people who are not nerds that would show up at a hearing anyway to give testimony? It's a great question. Part of our strategy for building adoption of Maple is to work through community organizations. We've worked really hard to build a advisory group of not just individuals, but of advocacy organizations as well, who themselves are on the ground organizing communities, convincing people, mobilizing people to submit testimony. Part of our strategy is for those organizations to see Maple as an easier, better way for their own members to submit testimony. We know that we don't have the capacity to mobilize thousands of people who aren't already those legislative nerds to do it, but we hope by empowering organizations whose primary work and job is to do exactly that, we can still capture and enable that broader mobilization. So that's the approach that we're taking. A lot of the volunteers who work with us are really focused on exactly that, on that outreach work, and we also welcome anyone who's interested in joining us in that effort.
Okay, that's it. Okay, that's what we got for you tonight. What do you think? Do okay? So, thank you all for coming out tonight. It doesn't look like we got the snow that we were supposed to, so hopefully you all had. Thank you. Okay. When? Okay. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate having you all here. It's great to spend time together. So a lot of great projects, a lot of great stuff going on in our partners. If you want to stay in touch, you know where to find us. Go to boston.org and now civictechnewaytolearn.org. We hope to see you around soon. A couple of quick notes before I release you off into the wild. One, who here came in and didn't check in? You were part of that group that they teleported up here. You folks, can you just make sure you check in with security on your way out, please? Thanks. Next, we got to clean up and get out of here by 9:30. I think a few of us are going to go over to Flat Top Johnny's, which is just over that way in Kendall Square. I had a QR code up here, but it's too much to put it up on the screen right now. If anyone wants to come and have a beer and hang out and keep talking, please join us. And lastly, there's a whole bunch of Code for Boston stickers around. Please grab them on your way out. And we'll see you around real soon. Thanks for coming out tonight.
That is right.